Aloha. There's a few things I wanted to cover, but the main concept will be around what is this place from the perspective of the most basic interpretations of how we carry out our days, how we engage in this reality, and what happens between our birth and when we pass on. That's pretty simple to grasp and go into once you just start analyzing your day-to-days, your children's behavior, your previous generation's behavior. That's pretty easy to kind of figure out. But where I want to take this video is how those basic styles of engaging in our reality have been flipped and reversed and sold back to us in a way that it doesn't work for us anymore. In fact, it works against us. It works against us for the benefit of the individual or the individuals who have created the system to keep us in that back and forth emptiness space for so long. So what it really boils down to is how we have been sucked into this mind control program, and how do we get out of it? First of all, you have to understand what the mind control program actually is. In order to understand what it is, you have to understand what it was. In order to understand what it is, or what it is trying to be, you have to understand what it is and what it was all at the same time in order to see how it's adjusting. Because just as much as you can grow and you can learn, the system is also growing and learning at the level of consciousness that the people are doing naturally. So the synthetic program has to adjust its synthetic control grid based upon the consciousness of the people. So if you have people that are just too smart to be enslaved, or too smart to be enslaved in a particular way. So back in the day, we were enslaved by kings and queens who said that they were acting on behalf of God so they can impose taxes on you. All this stuff is still happening today, just in a different style, as you'll see. You have the kings and queens imposing taxes on you, torturing people, calling people witches, attacking and not attacking the church, like using the church for its own benefit. So there is and was no separation between church and state, just like there is no separation between the Vatican and the colonial empire. It's all one storyline. So once we start to analyze how this system has been, it'll make it easier to see what's going on right now and how we can address what the system is trying to become. I say address what the system is trying to become because that is the world where the 7 generations from now, your great, 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 great grandchildren are going to be living. And are they going to be living in a world where their ancestors said and did nothing? They just, bickered and complained. They didn't really kind of put anything into, didn't really organize their analysis into action. There's a difference there. When you're organizing your awareness or your analysis into action, that's a different kind of space. So that's basically like the difference between Black Lives Matter and the Black Panther Party. So you can see how the Black Panther Party went all the way up to the president. They were so huge, they did so much that they needed to be addressed by the system itself because of what they were doing. And it's not what you were told they were doing. The main thing that they were doing, because 70% of the people that were in the Black Panther Party were women. And what they were doing was creating a self contained community to where they were providing lunches, they were providing breakfast for children, they were providing security for the community. So you had a security agency that was protecting its own community against the system. That is a huge statement. If that statement were to catch tread and spread out, it would inherently make the system that's imposing its will on others, it would make that system obsolete, and it would make that system to be seen for what it actually is, which is why COINTELPRO was created, to infiltrate those communities, to infiltrate those leaders, and to make them seem worse than the system itself. So they attacked you and said, you are the enemy, you are the villain, you are the one imposing, you're the one who's all the problems. You're putting all this stuff out. We're going to imprison you, we're going to murder you, we're going to completely take out the legs of this entire system. It doesn't matter if you're feeding children, it doesn't matter if your intentions are in the right space. We are the ones that are in control, and we will psychologically, physically, and spiritually destroy your movement. So this is what I'm saying is the difference between modern day revolutions or movements or communities like that. There's a difference there. This is why, and the system knows this. This is why the George Soroses of the world create programs like Black Lives Matter, because they have to lead in order to channel that energy, that movement into a particular focus. Because if you start focusing on the foundation of this broken system, that's when you become a threat. But if your focus is based upon Stephen Colbert, it's based upon the economy, it's based upon, protesting and not really doing anything with it, then that's when you get to a space of limitation. And that's exactly where this program wanted every single movement to go, and still to this day is wanting these movements to go. So the same thing is going on with the feminism movement. It's controlled, and the feminism movement is also just how the LGBT community is balled up into the idea of so-called black problems, or the black people's situation in the Americas. So what happens is, in the same way the New Age community says, we're all one, it's all one storyline. So basically people who are saying that we're all one, we're all human, you're doing the same thing as what All Lives Matter says towards Black Lives Matter. When in fact, you're in a dream within a dream. It's basically guessing. And that's what the concept of this entire video is going to be kind of like based around, is because this theoretical universe allows people to accept the guessing type mentality and never really stand firm in their beliefs, never really stand firm in their convictions. We can't really understand ourselves unless we're rooted. We're not rooted. So the reason why the so-called African Americans were called African Americans is because it inherently uproots you from your understanding, and overstanding of your relationship to yourself, to your people, to nature, to the land, to your responsibility to the land, and so on and so forth. So this is all a big mind control program that is doing the same thing that COINTELPRO was doing back in the day. The only thing is, it's attacking every single movement inside the people. Like, we don't see it because it's inside of us. So that's why you have people regurgitating stuff like, we're all human, everything is one, don't focus on this racist and racism stuff, because people are so desensitized and overstimulated They think they're rooted in something, but you're not rooted in anything when you just say we're all human. You're rooted in emptiness. That's basically like the Big Bang. It's an empty nothingness. There's nothing solid holding you down into the energy that empowers you. There's no kind of power in that space of we're all human. It's just a commercial. It's an advertisement for let's just do better. So instead of just saying something, some kind of catchphrase that represents doing better, why don't you actually research what has been going wrong for so many centuries on purpose? Do something about that so you can actually naturally become better. Because if you just sit around talking about, oh, well, since everything is about fear and destruction, then I'm going to say everything is about love and light. You're not doing anything other than what the system has done. So that's why you have people calling themselves revolutionaries and truthers and whatever it is. Like saving the planet and saving. You have these makeshift ass saviors running around talking about they're doing this and doing that, when in actual fact, they're just mimicking what the system has trained them, has conditioned them to be. And once you have an entire race of people, an entire plane of people that act like that, you've basically created an empty shell. You've created somebody who thinks they're alive, somebody who thinks they're in a revolution, somebody who thinks they're intelligent, somebody who thinks they're spiritual, somebody who thinks they're full, somebody who thinks that they understand, and overstand this reality. In fact, it doesn't even go that far. They just think that they understand this reality. So you can see how many degrees of separation we are from our center being, how much work we need to do, how many mind control programs are out there that we can't even see. We're not going to be able to see a lot of these things for years on out for certain people. And when you address these issues, you're going to get the full spectrum. Like on the comments on these videos, I get the full spectrum of people completely trying to save this system, from whatever perspective that they're coming from. Save the system, save this, whatever it is that they have prided themselves in over time. You're going to get people who want to save that, whether they are knowingly or unknowingly trying to do it. And then you're going to have people who just completely have zero roots, and they just want to attack you based upon the level of consciousness that they are, because they can't really interpret that information. They don't know what to do with it. So since it's sitting inside their own body, they have to externalize it and project it onto something or somebody else. This is something a child would do. This is basic psychology, child psychology. So this is why you have grown children. And I want to go down the list of all these. I know I missed some, but I did get a few. I did get a good list going on of the various systems that are out there and how they affect us. Also keep in mind when I'm going through this list that there are the two biggest things that are out there that are kind of stifling any kind of forward progress. It's very kind of like basic. It's very simple. There's only two main things that are holding us back from actually making any kind of forward progress. There's the individuals, like I explained in the last video where I was actually speaking, not the mirrored videos. I'll link it in the description. Well, like I was saying in that last video, there's it basically boils down to the individuals, for whatever reason. Let's just say for whatever reason, you're going to have individuals who have zero compassion, zero empathy, zero concern for others. Once you have zero concern for others, and I'll even take it to generations upon generations upon generations upon generations, because this stuff is learned. These separations, this lack of engagement in our reality, this broken consciousness, this is learned. So you have generations upon generations upon generations of people who are taking advantage of other people for their own benefit. That has grown into the system that we are experiencing today, where you have millions and millions of, and billion, or however millions of people, have-nots, living in poverty, which is another form of slavery, living impoverished, while a select few live at the top of that pyramid, siphoning all of the energy and all of the knowledge, all of the everything, using this entire experience as a battery. You're going to have those people who are just completely, they are built on callous nature. They have zero energetic connections to anything else other than their own ideas of, how things are supposed to be. So you can see like a spoiled child would grow up and act like this, because the world literally revolves around them. So you have those groups of people, and then the spectrum between. You have the furthest of the furthest individual, all the way up to the darkest of the darkest kind of mentality, to where they will do some of the deepest, most jacked up things. All the way up until the person who's trying to get out of that space. They're trying to break that curse. They're trying to break those generations of only giving a shit about themselves. They're trying to break out of that into a space of something else, whatever that is. I don't know, but that's just a way to explain the spectrum. So you have those people who are going to do that regardless, and the spectrum. Then you have the people who know that those individuals are doing that, who know that those groups of people are doing that, and they will not say anything about it because of a number of reasons. But the main reason is subconsciously and consciously for most. It's conscious for people who do know more than the normal person knows. Consciously for those people, but subconsciously for the rest of the people who are basically ignorant to the information and how the system has got to where it is today. You have the people that are consciously and subconsciously allowing this system to carry out this destructive behavior, to allow these people to install these mind control programs in the masses of people who are, in a sense, lower on the totem pole, lower on the pyramid. And who created the pyramid and the totem pole in the first place? Well, who's sitting on top of the pyramid right now? What keeps the pyramid afloat? What belief systems keep this reality afloat? Start actually looking at this. Look at this empire, dissect it, and see what's going on here, instead of just guessing about your reality. So those are the two things, those are the two main things that are keeping humanity and this entire system from actually healing and doing something, from actual forward progress. It's the individuals who have zero concern for others, and they will do anything. They will do anything to other people. They will carry out their actions at the expense of other people without zero concern for their own benefit. Then you have the people who will allow them to do that, and will defend them who will defend them by defending the system in which and the systems which they've created to allow that system to continue to grow. So people who are still trying to protect these systems that are inherently mind controlling people, you are on their team. You are on that team. That's what you're doing. Your silence is consent. And don't play the ignorant card, because time's up for that shit. If you just want to come from the perspective of flat earth, it's been 3 years now. 3 years that this information has been readily available to people. And you're going to see this information from the level of consciousness in which you approach it. Which is why I came down so hard on that flat earth, top brass, so-called community bullshit that was in the beginning and still going on today, where they were approaching this information from this completely cut out the lie, completely cut out the humanity. You know why? Because they themselves have not done the research. They haven't done the work to see how other mind control programs have been living in people and have been affecting people for so long. They don't know. So they get one big lie and then they think that's it. So they worship the guessing truth instead of actually researching the system that created the lie. So you have people priding themselves in guessing about their reality instead of actually doing the work of interpreting what these mind controllers have done. If you undo what they have done from the inside out, you'll be able to see more clearly. But if you are blinded by your pride in something that you have just discovered, you will never be able to do that work. You will constantly be spinning your wheels. I saw that in the beginning with this whole fake ass flat earth community. There's no focus, there's no movement, there's no connection to the humanity. There's only guessing. The closest that that community gets to actually tying in the human story, the closest that they get to that is the Christian flat earth community. And that's just a dream within a dream. It's just another guessing game. You see how people who are predisposed to taking the easy route go through this guessing game consciousness. Because you get to a point eventually where you are just tired of guessing. And you say, I'm not guessing anymore. Stop this shit. If I have to empty out everything in my entire reality, I want to find out what's solid. What are your convictions? What are you standing on? Who are you? What are you? How are you? Why are you? All these questions get avoided when people are priding themselves in a particular system. At best, you max out at half consciousness within somebody else's illusion. You can take this to the extreme of the Stockholm Syndrome, which I have taken it to when I have listed off these programs, because that's exactly what's going on. In the Stockholm Syndrome, for people who don't know, once a kidnapper, for example, kidnaps a kid or an adult, they have that kid for, let's say, 18 years. At some point between, however age, 5 years old, when they kidnap that person, in 18 years, at some point, and at multiple points actually, it adjusts. It goes over time. It's a slow breakdown for some people. Some people it's quick. Depends on the individual. But what happens is the person who has been kidnapped starts to climatize to their environment because they have nothing else. At the extreme level, they start to love their enslaver. They start, in order to adjust to the world that they are in now, because they are completely powerless. They have zero roots. There's nothing. In fact, their enslaver is now their provider. Their enslaver is now providing everything that keeps them alive. So you can see a 5-year-old that was kidnapped going through this system for months, years, a decade even. That's going to shift that individual's consciousness. What do you think is happening to the people all over the world when we have been subjected to this tyrannical, this destructive, this genocidal system for so long? This is why you have people defending this system. This is the subconscious defenders of this imprisonment, consciousness imprisonment system. And then you have the people who are consciously aware of this system. They're not going to say anything because they're making money. They're the ones sitting at the top. They're making energy. They're making whatever it is. They're not going to say anything because it'll bring about their own demise. So we have all these systems. We have all these ways that the people are protecting this system. You have the haves and have-nots, and then you have all of these ideas that people pride themselves in. We call revolutions, we call movements, we call communities. These are just ways to simplify complex ideas so that we can come together and start to actually talk about these complex ideas in these communities. What I'm saying is that once you get to a certain point of talking about and hashing out all these complex ideas, once you get to that point, you have a responsibility to move forward. You have to take those points. You have to take all that information that you squeezed out, all that nonsense, all that pus and that cancer that you squeezed out of your own body, your own consciousness. You're left with gold. You're left with you. What is that? Stop priding in yourself in what you're not and start finding out and expressing who you are and what you are. We don't have time for be running around talking about, oh, I'm a flat earther and that's it. It's flat and that's that. That's exactly what that mainstream flat earth community wants you to think. They are the controlled opposition, whether they know it or not. It doesn't matter if they know it or not. If they're walking around talking about it's flat and that's that, fuck you. I know what that means. And that's not what's going on here. It's not that simple. That's what I mentioned in the last video. It's that play school. So they're literal gatekeepers. They sit at the front gate of Flat Earth and say, welcome to Flat Earth. Come on in. Get yourself a hat. Get yourself a waffle cake with some cream on the top of it. You know, get yourself a hot dog. Run around in this circus in Disneyland and have a good time. And then when you're done, just go back to what you were doing before. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming. See you next time. And that's it. It's an amusement park. They set it up as an amusement park. Why? So you will not turn it into a revolution. You won't trace it back to its origins. You won't tune it into the human story. You won't activate that knowledge from the space of all the other mind control programs. Because at the gate, they sucked you in and said, this is only about Mickey Mouse. That's it. Welcome to Disneyland. It's no longer a globe Disneyland. It's now a flat Disneyland. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. Now what? Ask each and every one of them, now what? And at best, they'll give you some bogus, oh yeah, well, as soon as the flat earth goes mainstream, then everything will start fixing itself. Well, that shit is total bogusness because, like I've said before in all these other videos, it doesn't matter if the earth is flat, triangle, square, circle, concave, upside down, inside out. It doesn't matter. If the consciousness of the people is still vibrating on a level of consciousness of enslavement, it does not matter what the shape of the earth is. Because those people who are enslaved will be easily manipulated to believe whatever the enslavers will tell them their reality is to maintain their enslavement. This is why it's ridiculous to only focus on flat earth and completely leave out the human story. You're not doing anything other than entertaining people. This is what you get when you look at all that potato show and all that other, even a Christian flat earth. They're just entertaining you with the Bible, with some upgrades of flat earth. Now what? They don't have a now what. You know why? Because their systems give them their answers, whether it's their books or whether it's their enslavers who gave those other people those books, or whatever religions are out there. We can't break these chains until we first see that the chains exist. So what I've boiled this down to is the perspective of this desensitized reality and this overstimulated reality that distracts us from what's actually going on here. So I've explained this in previous videos. Those videos are linked in the description if you haven't heard this information before. But basically, the way the system controls people is by overstimulating you with the distraction program, with the synthetic God or synthetic consciousness illusions that keep you running in circles and spinning your wheels. You're overstimulated with a theoretical universe. It's empty. It's dead. You are full of emptiness. You're full of theories. Once you are in that space, you have no roots. So what happens to allow that system to maintain itself? So this includes social media. This includes mainstream religions. This includes your food, overstimulating you. And I'll get into this even more detailed in a second. But basically, you're overstimulated with the synthetic world and you're desensitized from nature. You're desensitized from your own power, from your root system, from who and what you really are. So they desensitize you. This is why you're surrounded by war, destruction, kidnapping, murders. Like when you watch the local news, that's a desensitization program. Hollywood desensitizes you. Over-sexualizing your world desensitizes you. Blowing out your physically, like your actual mouth senses. I'll get into this in a second too. It's overstimulating you, and as it overstimulates you, it simultaneously desensitizes you. So it's like burning your tongue forever. Eventually, you're not going to have a tongue anymore. You're not going to be able to taste anything. So you'll just eat anything. If you are so overstimulated for so long, you become desensitized and you will ingest any piece of garbage that gets thrown your way. That's what this system banks on. So on the other hand, what I've boiled down to just the other day, I was just thinking like, what's the basic like things that are going on here? And the basic things that we are faced with are the same things that we were faced with when we were kids. What were you learning when you were growing up? You had a responsibility. You had to take care of yourself. And a lot of this stuff was because you were becoming more in tune with your surroundings. You were becoming more sensitive to your sensory reality. And this sensory reality has been bombarded with illusions and has been sold to us in a way that is not at all for our benefit. So what I boiled it down to is just a few things, and this is not like, it's not like as simple as this. There's a lot more, but this gives you a good idea of, where I'm going with when I list off all these other things that are here. So what this place is, it's basically a place to learn discipline, like your own discipline for yourself, like your own self-control, your own ability to take care of yourself. That merits a discipline, some kind of discipline. Not a discipline in a sense that is known by, telling your kid to go out and grab a switch and beat. No, that's that discipline. That's a good example of the overstimulated and desensitized programming that takes one simple reality and reverses it and makes it work against you. So discipline in itself is not bad. It's not a bad thing to have discipline. You need discipline in order to have self-control. You need a discipline to take care of yourself, to have responsibility. To carry out your responsibilities, you need a certain amount of discipline. So something like that is even overstimulated, like I said, when they say, oh, discipline is just about getting a belt and beating the shit out of your kids, and that way you learn. No, that's a Lunchables version of this reality. So that's a good example of how this system sells you something and you believe it because you believe it to be true, because it exists somewhere solid in your reality. So these are the things that are kind of solid in your reality that I want to list off before I get into the empty, fragile parts of this illusion that actually make up our empty fullness or our full emptiness. So this place is a place to learn discipline, responsibility, and self-control. Not in a sense of all the things that are based upon this reality. I'm talking about simple stuff like cut your nails, make sure you wash your body, brush your mouth, make it so you don't keep your body, take care of your temple. Like that requires a certain amount of responsibility. It requires a certain amount of discipline. It requires a certain amount of self-control. These are these things that I'm talking about. The basic ideas that are making up our reality. So just make sure you don't, you're not eating in the same place that you're defecating. Like these are simple things, but it takes a certain, like a child might not know that unless you teach them. So these are things that you learn and you have to maintain in your reality. You're not going to just shit your pants. You're going to go and take your, go to the bathroom or go wherever you're going to go and take care of your business. As simple as that may seem, that's a responsibility that a lot of people still don't, do a lot of the time. They don't know how to do some of these simple things. Yeah, this is why you have people just walking around dirty and just, sick and diseased, because it's commercial. The commercial version of this reality has taken over. So you eat right, take it to the extreme. And it's only extreme because the system is so out of whack. So this basic stuff seems extreme, like eating right. We wouldn't even have to have this conversation if there wasn't a mind control program and a physical control program that actually was making a profit off of you eating wrong. So you have to have the concept of eating right. That goes back to this whole human story and other people just guessing about their reality. Don't just guess. Realize that the only reason you have to eat right is because a group of individuals who are they were dedicated to make a profit off of your own enslavement, your own demise. They created a system that destroys you. And they put like a watermill or a windmill on your level of destruction and started to harness the energy, the destructive energy of each and every individual. The way they can do that is by filtering, censoring, siphoning off your basic engagement tools of this reality. Taking all of that, you can see this with the human resources being hoarded and destroyed. It's something like, however, like a third or 2/3, I can't remember which it is, of the food in the United States just gets wasted. It's something like I think it's 2/3. It just goes in the trash. And just go look at restaurants. Restaurants, I mean, all the food goes in the trash. I mean, they're just cooking for fun, basically. For eating is just an excuse to go out and drink in the mainstream reality. So when that's the case, you got people drinking all the alcohol. They might throw it up later, but they're drinking more alcohol than they're actually eating the food. You can see how this program is going to eventually destroy itself on purpose, because once it's destroyed, you have to have a team of people come and rebuild it. So you have to cut your nails. You have to watch what you're doing when you're defecating, where you're eating. You have to take care of. You have to raise your children. You have to raise them in the right. You have to give them these values, give them these morals, and then the same thing. On that same note, there's none of that. There's the baseline for that is make sure your kids go to school. There's no wisdom there. There's no real connection there. It's synthetic. When you understand that you have the responsibility of raising your own children, and then they say, no, we have the responsibility of raising your children. We want to raise them the way we need them to be raised. We need them to be conformists. We need them to be weak-minded. We need them to buy into our version of the education system. We need them to buy into our version of the universe, in fact. Boom, heliocentrism, Big Bang, university system. Straight into the fiat currency system, straight into the maritime admiralty system. They are learning everything that they are not supposed to learn. They're learning everything that they are supposed to learn that will allow them to maintain their enslavement, so their Stockholm syndrome. They're learning that, and they are simultaneously not learning all the information that allows you and your generations to challenge this system. So when you have large groups of people who are taking any amount of pride in their kidnapper, in their enslaver, if they take any amount of pride in that, you will understand that they are the ones, they are just as much of a threat to you as the enslavers themselves. They are basically the cheerleaders for the enslavement system. So people who are avoiding the idea of racism, people who are avoiding colonialism, people who are avoiding the system that grew to this system that it is today, they are much of a threat, and in my eyes, more of a threat than the people who are out there creating these programs. The thing is, a lot of them don't even know what they're doing. They're just saying shit just because that's how they were raised. Or maybe they just don't know. Like, you can't blame somebody for being ignorant unless they're willingly ignorant. And you have a lot of willingly ignorant ass people that are out there. And those are the people that I'm addressing. this is where the cutoff is at flat earth. If you are aware that this system lied to you about the very nature of your universe, and you don't question everything else that they told you, if you don't analyze every other mind control that they presented to you, we have nothing else to speak about. There's nothing else that we have to talk about. You have chosen where you want to be. You've chosen where you pride yourself at. You want to be in that place? Fine. Stay there. Stay in that comfy little community box, that little safe ass space that's only existing because it's sitting on the foundation of the blood and the bones of all the other people that led up to today. But beat up, ignorant ass people want to say, we should just move on. Let's just forget about the past and guessing. Take your guessing ass out of here. You don't belong on this channel. You don't belong anywhere around anything that I'm doing personally. Get the hell out of my face with that nonsense. If this is offending you, unsmash the shit out of that. Unsubscribe over and over and over again. You don't belong here. When I was sharing Dr. Laila's Africa, his work, this is me sharing my journey. I've been aware of his work for the last something like 5+ years now. I've been aware of it. And this channel has been a progression of information. And a lot of this information is not going to be received very well from certain amount of people, certain groups of people, because of, for whatever reason. I mean, there's a whole slew of reasons. But one of the main ones with his work is, like, they think he's racist, or they think he's this and then he's that, but they don't really understand that he's one person. He's been in this for 30, 40 years, 30-something years now. He's been aware of this program for so long. He knows what's up. And he has zero concern for fake-ass tears. For these white tears. And I'll say that because I've said in the past, because there are no white people and there are no black people. But I will use that terminology for people who consistently accept that empty ass reality. You want to call yourself white? Fine. I'll call you white. When you come in my comment section talking about this and this and this and that, you're a racist, this, take your white ass tears on somebody else's channel and go look at some Sesame Street ass flat earth information on somebody else's bullshit channel. Don't come here talking about what I should be doing. You have a choice. Either, I'm not even going to get in there, man. You know what I'm talking about. A lot of the people, to get back to the point, a lot of the people can't really see the full spectrum of what's being said because they are distracted by the catalog, the bookshelves of work that they haven't done yet. So when an individual sees all that work, and somebody who's already has done that work is speaking to them like Dr. Laila Africa does, when you get to that point, you have a certain flow. You have a certain level of acknowledgement, understanding, understanding, and overstanding of the bigger picture to where you just don't, man, I'm just going to say whatever I want. How I want. And there's nothing wrong with that. And what happens is that people get into that space and they say, oh, well, I don't like the way this is offensive. If he's offensive, don't look at any Bobby Hemmitt's work. See, and I'm explaining this to explain what my own journey, my own kind of understanding of what I went through when I was coming across these individuals. It took me quite a bit of time to start to actually listen to Jiddu Krishnamurti. I couldn't listen to him because of the way he presented himself. So I missed out on all that information that he had out there. Simply because of the way that he was. But he was only the way that I was seeing him. That's the main point. Same thing goes for Bobby Hemmett and Dr. Laila Africa. They are not a certain way. They are the way you see them. Are you perfect? Are your eyes completely clear? Where's your level of judgment? Who are you to judge anything and how anybody presents themselves? So take a step back and look at yourself. Once you do that to the utmost degree, that's when you can see every single situation that you encounter as a learning experience. It should be easy when you have teachers in front of you, like Bobby Hemmett, like Dr. Laila Africa. It should be easy to see that. It should be easy to go through what you think you're seeing and listen to the actual information. But it's not that easy when you haven't been able to see that part of yourself. You haven't done that work, that catalog of work yourself. So in order to maintain your own equilibrium, you have to get that garbage out of your own perspective and externalize it, project it on somebody else. And then that's the end of the game. It's the end of the story. That's it. You don't have to do any work anymore. You're safe. You're safe. So in that illusory safe space that is generated by this colonial system, I use the terminology colonial system because it literally goes into the colonization of your mind, your body, and your soul. You can actually see how these individuals literally colonize this land and literally said, you are less than me, so I can kill you and take your land. Where's the accountability for that mentality? Where's the up in arms sort of movements and communities for that mentality that's still existing today, that still sets at the foundation of the system today? Where's everybody for that mentality? Nobody's, or a lot of people are not even thinking that that's something that we should address, because I don't know, they haven't done any of the work into what racism actually is, or they're coming from the space of everything is awesome, everything is perfect, everything is just new age and star seeds and enlightened and third eye and yoga and meditation and veganism. Everything is just wonderful. You can be the most highly whatever you want to call yourself, ain't gonna do shit for the system of enslavement and the people who are consistently enslaved. And then you have the people in the new age community are gonna say, well, those are those people. They chose that path. They're on their journey. That's their karma. They're expressing karmic timelines right now, and they just have to deal with it. You see how that just inherently cuts away? It just completely destroys the intelligence behind the enslavement, the intelligence behind the blood and the bones, the intelligence behind colonizing the body, the mind, and the soul. It removes it. That mentality is an escape mechanism. the New Age movement, and everything inside of it, channeling, even Western yoga. There's an article now. I might even put it up here so you can read it while I'm talking. There was an article done talking about how yoga is basically part of the racism agenda. What this stuff boils down to is that it dumbs you down. It's a distraction. It's a stimulant. We are being overstimulated and desensitized. So if you have somebody who's so enlightened in the yogic studies or so whatever it is that you want to pride yourself in, you have these people who are so buzzing with energy that they are blinded by their own light, and they are separating themselves from all the other people, all the other so-called dim lights, or the lights that went out. Oh, poor them with their karma. God will take care of them. Maybe in the future, they'll figure out how to manifest a better reality. Tell that to the indigenous people who are being paper genocide, literally genocided, and turned into this, illusory ass system today. What did the colonists do? What kind of manifesting intent were they tapping into? Where did that come from? What God or what source or what most high energy were they talking to? Is it the literal most high? Or is it some step down God that is easily appeased by this nonsense, by this garbage? That's the synthetic God that this system is priding itself in and praising. And people are praying to, they don't even know it. So basically, the colonizing of your mind, your body, and soul is the same reflection of how the colonial program colonized all these lands. They want to tell you that the colonial mentality is human nature. That's why all of these theories are out there. Because if they make enough theories that back up their animalistic behavior, they can then change the definition of humanity to include the animalistic behavior that is in its very existence inhumane. But since they said it and they are the approving authority, they are authority on this matter, on any matter, you believe it. So they constantly keep you in this fear-based mentality that they are protecting you, that they are providing for you. So like the Stockholm Syndrome before. Another version of that, a public version of that, is pumping all this money into NASA because they want to create some kind of self-defense program, some kind of self-defense laser that keeps meteors from hitting us like they did that blew out the dinosaurs or whatever. If a meteor came to hit this earth and it did destroy the dinosaurs, why do you think, where did that meteor come from? Where was it sent? You know how hard it is to hit a golf ball straight? You know how hard it is to hit a particular part of the catcher's mitt when you're pitching, when you're throwing? You know how hard it is to hit a baseball? Like how hard it is to do these things? There's an amount of precision there that is just beyond. So let's just take into account their little belief systems of a meteor. Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck going up to a meteor, drilling a hole in it and putting a bomb, setting a bomb in there, and then, saving the day. Let's just play that game right now. Where did that meteor come from? If it came and destroyed the dinosaurs, it was on purpose from something, from somewhere, in my eyes, has something to do with God, the Most High, possibly, whatever you want to call that energy. Point being, it's on a spiritual purpose. When we get consumed with all the physical reality, which is what all this stuff is about, that I'm getting ready to list off, we get consumed by that physical reality, and we lose our spiritual and psychological nature. We don't know what it is. It's just lingering out there. So back to the point, if that thing came to destroy the dinosaurs and then you got another thing coming to destroy you, what the hell makes you think that you will be able to do anything about that? No, they want you to think that they can do something about it. They need to pump their heads up. It's a big fake, like a Hollywood actor that needs attention. It's the same thing. Instead of needing attention, this system needs money. So what it'll do is it convince you to be scared so that they can be your protector, just like they rebuild nations after they destroy them in war. They need to rebuild your safety net by telling you that they're building lasers, by telling you that they're going to the moon, by telling you that they're going to Mars. And what mainstream science is telling you is that this is human nature, to go and colonize all these lands. There was a video on the trending section that, if I find this point in the video, I'll put it up there. I'll put the image up there so you can see, because it's like Kyrgyzstan, whatever, these like Squarespace videos, cartoon videos, science, sci-show videos that they put out there. They make these like animations that show how things are based upon the Neil deGrasse Tyson consciousness and all that bullshit. So there's this new one that just came out, and it was on the trending page, talking about how it's just natural for people, once they've colonized lands, to go and colonize other planets. And then you can see how this is designed to maintain the heliocentric agenda and so on and so forth. So basically what's that's doing is it's not only sucking you into this artificial future of going to Mars and doing all this other stuff, it's sucking you out. It's desensitizing you from the side effects of the colonization of the land and the people here on Earth. It's taking you away from that. Because why? They've written it into the definition of human nature. That's a way of desensitizing you from your true human nature and overstimulating you in the illusory universe. So, yeah, it's sick, but it exists, and it's evolving itself every day. So my question, knowing that this system is evolving itself every day, is when will enough be enough? Whose responsibility is it to say enough is enough? If it's not your responsibility right now, you are passing that responsibility over to your children, your children's children, your great-great-great-great-grandchildren. You are passing that responsibility on down the line, only to protect your comfort zone, your safety net in this moment, in this trivial ass, like short ass life that you're in right now. This is a test. What are you going to do? Are you going to only be concerned with yourself, or are you going to use the intellect that you have, use the information that you have to make a better space, a better world for the future generations who aren't even born yet? This is something that you can do. You can grasp this in your reality. You are not going to be able to do anything about this reality with these fake ass religions, with this fake ass Western society, and all this other nonsense that they're putting out in front of your reality to dumb you down. It's to take your energy and control it. Controlled opposition. Mainstream religions are a controlled opposition from you, for you to not tap in to your deepest power. When you tap into your deepest power, because that's what this boils down to, power. GMOs, chemtrails, the education system, heliocentrism, capitalism, democracy, colonialism, all of these destructive ass programs. It's not about, oh, they want to do this to our body. It's they want to do it is about power, control over your ass. Are you going to be a simpleton and allow it to happen? Or are you going to grow and do something about it? You can't do anything about anything else if you haven't done shit for who and what you are. It's like somebody who's, burning themselves out trying to take care of all these other people. You can only take care of people based upon how much you've taken care of yourself. My point is, once you've gotten to a space of taking care of yourself, how I see it is that those people who are challenging themselves to get into that space now have a responsibility to realize that they are now responsible for caretaking this land for the future generations, this land and this reality for future generations. But the people who haven't realized who and what they are in this system, for whatever reason, they're scared, they just don't want to be dealt with, they're lazy, whatever it is, they're not even going to be living in a space that realizes that they are responsible for not only this themselves in this little cubby hole that they're comfortable in, they're responsible for their great grandchildren. And this is what the indigenous, the reason why I keep mentioning this over and over and over again is because this is what the indigenous people already knew. They knew this. It was part of their reality. They took care of the land. This is not to say that they were all perfect. This is to say that their relationship to the soul, the mind, and the body, the land, the consciousness, the sun, the moon, the stars, the wandering stars. They were aware of this on some kind of level. And they were responsible in protecting those balances of nature. They were disciplined enough to create values that will maintain these understandings. And they pass that down the line. And those values are a threat to the individuals who want only to provide for themselves. The colonial program, that mentality to rule over you, the power. See, the power from the indigenous perspective was, the power was not based upon people's money or how big their sword is or how many guns they had. The power comes in you existing. And in that existing, true power comes from being completely part of this natural system. Completely part of. You are an expression of this reality. You are an expression of your brothers and sisters, and vice versa. The power comes in naturally understanding, and overstanding what this reality is. That's the true power. So, what the colonial mentality did was created another version of power. They said, no, that's not power. What power is to believe in our theoretical versions of this reality. That's where the power is. The power is in your degree. You have a high school diploma, you're not powerful because the person who has a bachelor's degree is more powerful than you, and so on and so forth. Master's, PhD, Hollywood, politics. Those are the people that have been projected into your reality as power. It's all an illusion. So, back to the question. All of these systems, Hollywood, politics, the degrees, the success, everything that exists inside the slave house. Because that's what this really is. All the people will talk about, oh, love and light, or I'm living in a tiny home, or I'm in a new age community, or I'm building my black-owned business, or I'm off the system and living in a van, or I'm super woke, or I'm in a conscious community, or whatever it is. Those are all ways to deal with the system. Those are all ways to deal with the system as the system continues to grow. It's not doing anything to challenge the system. That's why I said it's a difference between kinetic and potential energy. Everything I just listed off is a potential energy. Like these communities, like the flat earth community, it's not a kinetic energy. It's not moving. They tell you it's moving, a flat earth movement, it's in the wording. Where is it going? Where is it moving? Who has the answers for that? Nobody. Because it's not. Because to this day, in the modern version of this, 3 years hasn't moved one bit. Of course, that could be argued and so on and so forth, taking whatever you want to see it. What I'm saying is that there are no solid goals set. So you have no kind of you have no projection of your movement. You have no acknowledgement of the past, no awareness of the present moment, and you have no goals set out in your future. When that is happening inside of a so-called movement, you're not in a movement. You're in a stagnant. This is the flat earth stagnant. Because it's just repeating the same old patterns. So this is what all these mind control programs do. They sell you the illusion of movement. They sell you the illusion of change, the illusion of expansion. They sell you the illusion of all this, but there's no real movement. There's no real expansion. It's all based upon you sensing or feeling a certain way because they have controlled your senses. Every part of your senses. This is why the food and the water and the elements in your body are so important. Everything is supposed to be just a thing to desensitize you. Once you just become a floating rock barreling through space, you have no meaning and no purpose. There's no reason for you to do anything beyond an animalistic behavior, because the animalistic behavior is actually a step up from just being a dinosaur or a slob or just like a nothing. So you have people actually trying to trying to build themselves up within an animalistic consciousness. When you take the acts of some things that animals will do and some things that animals won't even do, when you take those actions and then you say, well, that's just human nature, you've downgraded, de-evolved the human experience down to an animalistic experience. That's what the university system does with the monkey evolution program and all this other nonsense. So there's no accountability there for your human nature. They don't even say what human nature is. They don't know. They don't know. So what's happening is the system itself is priding itself in being evolved in an animal consciousness. So what happens when you got the people in that space is now the system can now say, well, everything is bad. Everything is out to get you. Everything is about, just like if you were living in the jungle. Everything is just horrible. It's bad. We're all bad. So the acts of the colonists, a very small group of people, like top of the pyramid, the acts of those people at the tippy top of the pyramid, they're the ones who are creating the definitions for the rest of the people in the pyramid. So the acts that they have done to create the pyramid and to create themselves on top of that pyramid, they are saying we can't let them know that we did some fucked up shit to get here. So we have to create a consciousness that says that this is natural. This is human nature. That's where the whole colonize a land and then colonize planets. So basically that video that was on the trending page, there was an animation, so kids are going to watch it. They're going to see that. And they're going to say, oh, well, it's just natural what the colonists did to the Native Americans. That's human nature. You know why? Because the beyond space of that is to colonize other planets. See? It all makes sense now. We're all just pieces of shit. No, we are not all just what you say we are. Just because you have a bigger microphone, that's bullshit. But since people don't know how to think for themselves, the status quo will accept that as their reality. So once people are in that space of accepting this bogus idea of human nature, now you have people saying, we need to just move on. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all do this. Yeah, that's understandable. But by taking that position, you're saying, I'm not concerned with holding the individuals accountable who are still profiting from this genocidal program. I'm not concerned with that because we are now all one and we should just move on. That is the self-defense mechanism that's inherent within this system. And it's not only in that system. That's not the only way. That's not the only self-defense mechanism that's out there. There's a whole lot of other self-defense programs that are out there. That's just one of them. But in my opinion, that's one of the biggest ones because what that does is it sets up the people to be nothing, to be empty, to be destructive, to have a lack of empathy, a lack of compassion, carry out this garbage that they're doing. Like it sets the foundation for those two groups of people that I explained earlier. The people who are going to make whatever they want at the expense of other people. They will take whatever they want at the expense of other people. And they have the other group of people who will allow them to do that over and over and over again. Because in some way, they're getting a little piece of that pie. They benefit from it. So if they say anything about them, they will be exposing themselves. That's why Hollywood actors can't say anything, athletes can't say anything, politicians can't say anything. All of those systems are rolled up into this pedophilia, take from the innocent people. The children are the most innocent ass people. That's why you have a pedophilia ring in politics, in Hollywood, and in every other system that's out here running around. And since you don't know how to be a man and you don't know how to be a woman because they've created this LGBT transvestite trans everything movement out there, you don't know what the hell that is. You have no power. They created the rules of the game that make you powerless by having the illusion of power within their game. You're full of emptiness, living in chaos. This is that chaos magic. Praying to an empty, fake ass God, and even your prayers are commercial. Sending these old Woolworths and McDonald's drive-through ass prayers up to whatever you think you're praying to. Like I said with all these other videos, you're not asking the right questions. You ask the wrong questions, you'll get the right answers to those wrong questions, and you'll think that you did something. That's what the controlled opposition is for. To answer your half-ass, empty-ass questions and make you think that you got something out of it. This is what the fake flat earth community is. This is what the fake black conscious and any conscious community is. This is what the new age community is. It's not about these communities. It's about the people who build up those communities, each individual. So just as much as I'm saying it's about the communities that are the way they're designed, or about the individuals within the communities more than the communities itself, I'm not saying that all the people in there or the majority of the people in there are all full of shit. No. It's more complex than that. You're going to have people who are on their way out of those communities, who are still heavily ingrained in that community. And I'm speaking from example. I was already in there and I got out. So I know I don't have any judgments on people being in there. I'm talking about the system that uses those people against other people. But when you talk about this, people take it personally. So when I talk about racism, I'm talking about the system, the intellect that created this destructive program. When you even talk about it, the people who are in the space of we're all human, we're all this, they think they moved on. They think they're woke. They think they're fucking enlightened. So they take their woke ass comments into the comment section and say, I'm woke and you're asleep because you're a racist. Have a nice day. Unsubscribed. Oh, you are now. They're just proving their butthurt. They're proving their own ignorance by not realizing that I'm speaking in reference to the system, not your simple ass. So I'll get back to this list and I'll close it out with this list that I wrote down in reference to how we are overstimulated and desensitized, and how this entire system is based upon locking you in to a synthetic version of the physical reality. So it's not even the divinity of your body in relationship with the higher mind and the soul. It's a commercial version at best, a synthetic version of only the body. That's what the systems are. The theoretical universe is about. So this will just give a quick rundown of how we are overstimulated and desensitized. And literally it goes to your senses. It's really about your senses. So sex. First, everything is about, it's the physical. It's like the porn industry, the Hollywood industry, even your politics. It's all about sex and sex and sex. Like Dr. Laila Africa was saying, the system sells with sex. What he's saying is that this system sells with your basic interpretations, your basic reality. It uses those basic interactions and sells it back to you with an attachment. This attachment is a synthetic block. It's a block. So when you are over-sexualized, overstimulated, and desensitized, you have nothing better to do than to pride yourself in the max out point just below that block. So that block is the peak of the synthetic physical reality that they're selling to you. The theoretical universe is the blueprint or the infrastructure of that reality. So this is why something like sex is taken to sell you a burger. Because when they sell you a burger with sex, they're not only selling you a burger to jack up your body, but they're desensitizing you from what sex really is. So they're overstimulating you with their illusions, and they're desensitizing you from the depths that you could go into that connection. This is why everything is, and to go on beyond that, relationships are the same way. You are overstimulated with a catalog of people on Tinder, on online eHarmony, all this stuff. You are overstimulated with this wealth of people, this wealth of empty ass people who have also not done the work that you have done. And you have to find somebody who's just as jacked up as you are, and maybe it'll work out. Because you'll spend the rest of your life externalizing your work on them, never taking responsibility for yourself, and inherently never taking responsibility for the 7 generations in the future. Because the only thing that matters in your reality is how you look in society with your relationship and all your other relationships. Your relationships that are based upon the way the system tells you to be perceived. So you have relationships that are largely based upon the physical reality. Relationships that are being held together by sex. Relationships that are started and held together by something as simple as a car, a bracelet, a haircut, something this simple. This is how far people have been de-evolved. This is how far the system has gone to shrink down your reality. So instead of going into the excuse me, what happens is the relationships are so focused on the physical. Your mentality, the way you calibrate sex, the way you calibrate relationships are so based upon physicality. What that inherently does is it locks you out of the non-physical reality, which is your power, your spiritual nature. So the spiritual nature of humanity, the spiritual nature of your body, the spiritual nature of your relationships. Are we having spiritual relationships? No. Largely no. Because most people don't even have a spiritual relationship with themselves. So you have broken people having broken relationships, having broken babies, creating a broken society. And that will continue to go on as long as people do not take responsibility for 7 generations from now, for the moment right now, to hold accountable this system by empowering yourself from how the system became to be. If you don't go, you can't empower yourself right now if you don't root yourself in what was. Your ancestors, at least the knowledge of what went down. That's the baseline. And then you start getting into the culture. Then you start empowering yourself. And see, and like I said earlier, I'm going to use that word even more so now. White people. Because there are no white people, there are no black people. There's no white culture. This is one of the main things why people don't do the work that needs to be done. So-called white people there's no culture. They can't understand culture because if you start going in the past, they're going to start unveiling a lot of the stuff that adds up to the power grid of today. That's why the history needs to be sold to you backwards, reversed, and upside down. Because you need to be held back by that restricting agent, that block that's sitting, just like in reference to relationships and sex, there's that block there. You can't go into a spiritual relationship. Even if one of the other persons, other people in that relationship is highly in a spiritual relationship with themselves, if they're in a relationship with somebody else who has no idea what that is, you will max out at the point that that individual is at. And that's actually part of this process. We help each other. We're at different levels of who and what we are, and we help each other get to where we're going. The thing is, the system is based upon keeping you from doing any of that work and externalizing and projecting your reality on the other individual instead of seeing how the other individual is a reflection of yourself. So this is where the victimization, oh, you always do this to me, you know, the emotional body, the lower sort of frequencies that are there, which are actually pretty high in a sense, but when they're calibrated a certain way, they're the lowest form of response. There's nothing wrong with being sensitive. But if you're sensitive from a perspective of defending a synthetic system, that's not your real sensitivity. That's a synthetic sensitivity. That's where I just burn through all that shit. I don't have time for that shit anymore. So what I'm saying is that you have these synthetic cultures. You have this there's no white culture. You have people, Mexican people, African people, you have South America, you have this slew of people. They have an actual culture. They have actual history. You can trace it back. They didn't want you to do that with the Mayans, the colonialists. So they burned all their books because their books would have threatened the system that exists today. So they burned their books. They burned their reality and burned the people, literally. And you have people protecting that system. So another part after the relationships are the raising of your children. Desensitizing your children from their spiritual and higher mind nature, because the status quo of this reality is a public education system which is maxed out on a 10% synthetic version of the physical reality. So at birth, they are locking into the birth certificate program. That's the spiritual. That's spiritual. When they put that ink on your baby's feet and they stamp it on a certificate, they are certifying your life. The life of your baby is certified, enslaved in their world. That's an alchemy. That's the spiritual part that we are engaged in that we don't know about. We're not aware of that spiritual magic that's there because we accept it as normal. But just because we accept it as normal doesn't mean it's natural. And that's what this whole society, this whole system is based upon. We accept this as natural. We accept this synthetic version of a 10% understanding of this physical reality. We accept that as normal because they have told us they are the evolutionary peak of intellect, evolutionary peak of human existence. They've told us this. So they shut you out and shut you down. And this is where you'll have people defending heliocentrism. They don't know shit about anything. They don't know anything. You have people protecting this bogus ass relationship stuff and bogus ways of raising your children. Yes, I said it. Bogus ways of raising your children. Bogus ways of raising your children. Because the extreme is you're not raising your children. The system is raising your children. These mind control programs are raising your children. So the education system that is raising your children is based upon the material reality, the 10% version of the synthetic interpretation of the material reality. This is that bogus Big Bang nonsense. That's what the education system is based upon. So there is no spiritual interpretations of this reality. There's no balance to this. It's all about conformity. Conformity on every level. The soul, the mind, and the body. So you have the sex, the relationship, raising of your children, the education systems. You have your food. Your food. Your food is like Dr. Laila Africa was going into. We are trained to believe that, like, who came up with the idea of breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Like, you see how generic that is and how inherently that will throw you off. That's not for your body. That's for you to work in the conformist system. It's spread out. You need to eat breakfast in the morning so you can slave with energy in the morning. You need to eat lunch so you can maintain your morale and have a break and then slave for the rest of the day. Then you have dinner to fill your body because you're full of emptiness because you wasted your whole day slaving for this destructive system. So it's filling you, and it's filling you with this emptiness. All that genetically modified food, it's empty, it's dead. It's dead energy. It's just enough energy to keep you alive because these bodies are so complex. This vessel is such a complex thing, you can fill it with all kinds of shit and you'll still be able to work. You're not going to be able to max out and go into the extremes of who and what you are, but you will be kept at a particular level of consciousness that allows you to do just enough to be functional in this destructive society, but be just dumb enough, be just weak enough, be just disempowered enough to where you can't do anything about it. Because your time, your body, your soul, and your mind have all been locked down. And they've all been largely given to you by this empty system. So the food, how I was talking about earlier about your discipline and taking care of your body, eating right, and so on and so forth, that goes into the vitamins. You're going into like the holistic approach, the naturopathic approach to balancing out the elements in your body. Somebody on the other side of the world is going to have a different type of elemental makeup. So they will process foods in a slightly different way. But the point is that the elements will be based upon your makeup, your particular makeup. So the point being is that it's not about filling your stomach full of shit so you can just be full for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a different consciousness. That's the consciousness of this synthetic reality, what Dr. Laila Africa was talking about. He goes into great detail about it, and I'm just going to glaze over it. In this space, he goes into talking about how food is not just a filling agent to be giving you energy to provide for, the worker bee system. This food is part of you. This food, this energy, you are intellectual, spiritual energy. That food is also part of your intellectual and electrical and magnetic, physical, spiritual, and psychological energy. It's a balance. But if it's shrunk down to just driving through the drive-thru and filling your body with plastic meat and plastic bread and plastic all this other nonsense, you're in a different world. Your body is in a different world. There's no balance. There's no accountability. There's no work that's being done on any kind of higher level because you have decided to lock yourself into that level of consciousness. That body consciousness is based upon plastic. It's actually based upon death. It's destroying you. It's not to enliven you. It's not to get your body in order, because that's what the food actually does. It activates certain things in you. A Big Mac is going to do something very horrible to your body, especially in relation to what something like asparagus will do to your body, or any kind of other vegetable. It's going to do something on the spectrum that is completely opposite of what a Big Mac would do. So if that's the case, look at your surroundings and see what this reality wants you to do and how it wants you to be. It wants you to be sick because it can make a profit off of you. So you're overstimulated with the commercials of that reality. This is why you see a McDonald's, Arby's, Jack in a Box, Burger King commercial every 5 seconds, every 5 minutes. You're driving around, you're driving past another fast food restaurant, another grocery store that's selling fast food that's going to affect you the same way. It's just a hub for it, a hub that makes you look like you have the illusion of choice. You don't. Grocery stores like that are built like that are just giant extra value menus. So you have the food. The food is a part of the culture. If you have no culture, you will eat anything. You will think anything. You will believe anything that this artificial culture tells you. This is why the indigenous cultures and the pre-Columbian cultures are such a threat to this system. So they had to call them primitive, savage. They had to destroy them and say, look, that's it. It's a new world now. Literally, that's what they said. This is a new world. You're done. Have a nice day. You're just a monkey. We've scientifically discovered that we're all just monkeys, and you are actually more monkey than us because we wear suits and ties and build buildings and go to work and have electrical energy and do all this other stuff. We are less of a monkey than you, proven by evolution. So there's your proof. There's your reason why it's okay to slaughter and genocide all these people. And people said, I agree with that. I agree with that. Carry on, like Bill Nye. Carry on. When he says that, that's what he's saying. Carry on with the destruction. So, culture, the mainstream system, the capitalism program, a fiat currency system. The artificial culture is based upon that. Pop culture. That's the new culture. It's the new world culture, the mainstream culture, the colonial culture. It's Stephen Colbert, Jon Stewart, John Oliver, Bill Maher, Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, TYT, Alex Jones. The way you perceive this information, all of that. That is the synthetic culture. These mainstream religions, this is your synthetic culture. And since some people have zero culture, zero roots, those are the people who will be happy and spiritually enlightened with whatever available option is there for them. So you have people who are running around with this lack of options. They don't know. The closest thing they can have to connecting to a spiritual interpretation of this reality is Jesus. Jesus this, Jesus that, or whatever, all these other religions. And in reference to that, because I'll go right into that, the Jesus program was created to keep you thinking that you're just a cosmic mistake, just like the Big Bang. You're born in sin. You're just another one of the minions. And Jesus is the best of the best. He's the untouchable. But he was actually in body here. So what it does, that's what they're telling you with all this stuff. So what that does to you subconsciously, consciously, and unconsciously is that it creates another level of emptiness, another unreachable goal, another space of, well, I guess, I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do because Jesus took care of everything. It desensitizes you from your responsibility to the work here, because you can always default to the Jesus program. And there's no responsibility with you anymore. The responsibility lies in Jesus. If he came back and took all our sins back then why isn't he doing it again? But they'll tell you, he is going to come back. He's going to do that. He's going to do all this. That program was created to have people doing that, to have people going back and forth, talking about that forever, and never taking the responsibility to do anything about the systems that are in place today. No different than the New Age program, where they say, oh, well, those are those people just dealing with, their karmic debt. That's their journey. That's the New Age version of Jesus will take care of it. All the injustices that have been imposed on all the people across the earth today, the mainstream religions, Christianity, Catholicism in particular, they say, oh, well, Jesus will take care of it. It's the same thing. It's an easy fit. It's a drive-through spirituality. That's what it is. Just get your extra value meal, your Big Mac extra value meal. Call it a day. I did it. Confess my sins to Jesus. Everything is done. I'm going to heaven. Boop, boop, boo, doo, boo. Nothing else I got to do. Since I'm born in sin, everything I do is cool. Boop, boop, boo, doo, doo. Going on about my life. Everything is just all right. Fuck, it's just the simplest garbage bullshit out there. But it represents the spirit, something that is natural to you. So you believe it to be true. And since you have a lack of options, you allow it to be. And now it becomes your truth. It becomes your belief systems. And beyond that, the mainstream realities are also largely physical based. The physical Jesus. He was literally here in physical body. The Jesus Christ was here physically. That's what matters. That's what people are arguing about. It's all about the physicality. They don't give a shit about the values and everything that was said that actually fucking matters. It's all about wearing the crucifix, his dead body sitting on an open cube on your chest. And what does that cube represent? So all these alchemical systems, this magic that's being imposed on people, we just write it off with labels. Oh, that's Illuminati. Oh, that's conspiracy theory. Oh, that's the Freemasons. Oh, that's the Jews. Oh, that's this whatever it is they're doing. We're so chaotic all over the place. We don't know what to do with this information. We don't put it anywhere. We don't do anything with it. And it allows the system to continue on expanding and growing. So as long as you're caught up in this chaotic nothingness world, you'll allow them to create the simulation nothingness world. How hard do you think it would be for them to just hit the reset button on the Big Bang and now just call it a simulation? Where in fact, that universe has the same effect on you as the other universe. Nothingness. Nothing. You're empty. It's just a simulation. You're just inside a computer. It's the Sims reality. Do the best you can do. And whoever created this simulation reality is responsible for everything. And you have no responsibilities to yourself, to your family, or to your future generations, or to your ancestors. None of that stuff matters. It's all about going to Mars. It's all about here. It's all about everything that's going on now. Be in the now and the I am presence. Be a starseed. You're really from the Pleiadians. Oh, you might actually be from the Andromeda galaxy. Oh, you're clearly from the Arcturian galaxy. You must be in Orion. You must be guessing their fucking reality. It's sick. It's insanity is what it is. It's enlightened insanity. They call it woke because they have a lack of options. And what social media does, it allows a platform for people to pride themselves in the nonsense that they are in at the present moment. So you have people priding themselves and having huge followings of them priding themselves being in the space of nothingness. This is what all these YouTube stars are. Millions and millions of subscribers to their channel, and they're doing videos about, hot glue gun sandals and, talking their dogs or their cats or something shit like this. This is why the whole dog, and this is a side note, this is why the whole dog and cat shit in there is in this society as well. It's a toy. It's a fix. It's an easy fix. It just comforts you in the meantime while you're not even, you don't even know how to comfort yourself. Some people's dogs and cats are in more of a relationship than the man and the woman or whatever relationship that's out there. These people have more relationship with their damn dogs and cats than they do with their loved one. That's because the consciousness that they are existing at is at that space of the animal consciousness. This is not to say that it's higher or lower. This is to put more of a responsibility on the human consciousness and to shine a light on the system that is designed to make you think that you are nothing more than an animal. There's a difference there. So the dog and cat thing in the house, what it does is that it creates the system of discipline, conformity. You have to break your puppy. You have to potty train. It's this fake, easy play school version of taking care of having responsibility for a life form. So you are the king and queen of your dogs, cats, and your children. You created a mini castle, a mini monarchy. And that's what they say, that's it. So instead of being a mother and a father from a spiritual sense, you pride yourself in being king and queen of the little castle that you've created in, for example, this American dream society. When you pride yourself in that American dream society, that synthetic consciousness, you're taking yourself out of the space of really activating what a mother and a father truly is on every level, the soul, the mind, and the body. Same goes for children, brothers and sisters, friends, family members. We don't know what that stuff is because we spend most of our times trying to deal with this chaotic system. So we're not allowed to even step into our own true nature. So back to the religion and the physical senses part of it. All of these that I mentioned, the sex, the relationship, the raising the children, the education, the food, the universe, the culture, and the religions, all of this is based upon the physical realm, and a bastardized version of the physical realm at that. So it's this is where the idol worship comes in. So it doesn't matter if you actually inhabit the space of whatever they say Jesus Christ was about. You only need to wear the necklace. You don't have to actually be like whatever the religion is saying. You just have to go to the church every Sunday. That's what will get you into heaven. Wear the crucifix on your chest. Go to church every weekend, or every Sunday, and confess your whole reality to this used to be physical person we call Jesus Christ, for one example. Takes everything away. Locks you into the physical reality. So, I mean, you can go even further. You're actually eating the spiritual representation of the blood and the flesh in that church. So it's about the physical. You don't know what that blood is, and you don't care, because your belief system say, this is all I need to do. I just need to eat this bread, drink this blood, confess my sins, and I'm going to heaven, baby. I'll be there. Here I come, Grandma. Here I come, Grandpa. It's ridiculous. Everything is about the physical nature. A bastardized version of the physical nature. An animalistic interpretation. You're basically seeing animals go to church. Animals eat the bread and drink the blood. Animals voting. Powerless, empty vessels. That's where the system wants people to be. At the most extreme. You have not one thought in your mind that is your own. That could be argued all the way up to the tippy top. But what I'm saying is that that's another video. But the point being is that the opposite version of that, you regurgitating somebody else's on this plane of existence. Like, for example, a cult. If you're in a cult, the people in the cult members in there, they regurgitate what the cult leader says. So he's or she is your God. That's what I mean in reference to the extremes of somebody else creating your reality for you. So instead of religion getting you closer to your inner relationship to the spirit, it takes that energy, it takes that relationship and channels it into something like a church, into a preacher, into the state, into the government. It channels it. This is why they say, God bless America, God bless our troops, and God bless all this other stuff. They want to take your energy from your empty vessel, channel it into destruction. You can see that spiritually, or you can see it financially. Tax dollars going to NASA, tax dollars going to war and destruction. When is enough? At what point? You talk about chemtrails. They're already spraying the sky. They're already carrying out false flags. Whether people died or didn't, they're making you believe that they did. So at that point, when is the tipping point? The tipping point is based upon the individual representation of the collective. So if the collective status quo is based upon going through the drive-through, they ain't gonna do shit. They're gonna allow it to be over and over and over again, which is why it's so beneficial to keep selling this artificial reality, this synthetic universe, and this synthetic God, and all these other synthetic programs that allow you to just jump in and say, I did it, everything's done. I'm in the flat earth community. I made it. I realized that we're not living on a globe anymore. So I'm going to heaven, baby. I went to church every Sunday for the last 10 years of my life. See, that's what a lot of these old folks do. They live in these hustling ass, garbage ass lives. And then once they get older, they start contemplating their reality, see all the jacked up shit they do, and then they don't have any options. So then they start going to church with their other family members, and they become all holier than thou and all prideful in that bullshit. Now they become a different person, and they get this artificial version of being wise. You're not wise. You just an old ass person with a lot of old ass garbage ass stories, and you can tell you didn't learn from them stories. You didn't learn a fucking thing from those stories. That's the difference between being wise and old. You learn from something, that's when you become wise. If you just tell the story to younger people, you can tell if you actually learn from it. Because this is the thing. A lot of people that tell those stories, all them old folks that tell them stories, they're telling them stories not from a space of having learned from them. They're telling those stories from a space of looking back and saying to themselves, a lot of the times, not completely, but a lot of the times, if those people were younger and in those same situations, they'd repeat the same patterns because they didn't learn shit. Their idea of learning and growth and wisdom at their older age comes from the prepositioned mainstream religions. So what happens is they lock down the kids with the public education school. That's the youngest generation. They lock down the middle generation with the work industry, with the slave mentality, with the politics. Get you to vote, get you to be this, get you to be that, university system on up. They lock you down with that world, the American dream. So your American dream is school when you're a child. And you're preparing in that school for the actual American dream. Once you get out of that dream and now you're old and now you're all just retired and you didn't really do anything other than what they told you to do. Now, what's available to lock you down? Your mainstream religions. So it goes from the body to the mind to the soul. The child learns the physical material reality in the education system, the first part of their life. Their psychological consciousness gets locked down in the higher learning, the high school, the university system. The universe, literally telling you your universe is built up of this. And then when you get old, you're getting ready to die. So what do you need to do? You need to make right with your spirit after you just blew up the whole world with all this other bullshit in your 20s and 30s and 40s. Getting into your 50s and 60s, now you want to find God. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. This old McDonald's ass reality. And then you want to come around me with your old ass talking about this. Oh, well, I've been around this. I've been done this. Shut the fuck up. Ain't nothing wise. It ain't a wise cell in your body. You just an old kid looking back at all the other nonsense that you escaped from, that you lived through, but you didn't learn through. You might have lived through a lot of shit, but you didn't learn through that shit. Especially if you're just looking for something else to fill the space, and now you want to pride yourself as a reborn Christian or whatever the hell you want to call yourself. You see how simple this is? You are set up from birth to death. And now the in-between field, the intellectual field, is becoming more complex because we have more information available to us. So what's happening is that you're having people who are now questioning their spiritual interpretations of their reality and their physical interpretations of their reality at an earlier age, from a more grounded space. And a lot of the old programs are starting to die. So one of the first things to go is going to be these fake religions, because they're going to be seen for what they are. Because the people who work for those fake religions, people in your family members, they're starting to also feel insecure about that nonsense. Slave food, slave religions. Slave religions, slave intellect. Slave intellect, slave consciousness. End game. Cash your chips in, call it a day. You did whatever it is you were supposed to do, or actually what your level of consciousness was allowing yourself to do, because you subjected yourself to what the reality presented to you. Instead of critically thinking for yourself, you accepted something or somebody else's belief systems as your own. Did you max out? Did you maximize your reality? Or did you just accept somebody else's reality because it was easier to do that? That's what's happening. This is why, on to the next space, dreams, the literal non-physical reality that you are aware of, is completely taboo. It's a kid thing. It's just nightmares and flying dreams. The extreme of the bad and the extreme of the good. Ooh, a kid had a nightmare. Ooh, kid, I was a flying dream. Oh, good job. Just go to school. Did you get your lunch? Did you get your lunch? Okay, go to school. Did you tell me about these damn dreams? I gotta go to work. Total destruction of the non-physical reality, your spiritual relationship, your intellectual relationship, your physical relationship with the dream realm doesn't exist. In the synthetic universe, it doesn't matter. Because just like tapping into your ancestors' information will empower you and threaten the system, the dream realm connection will also empower you and eventually uproot this system, because it's literally based in the non-physical reality. Whereas this reality, it's your direct connection to it. It's your direct connection to the non-physical reality. But if your dreams are just knocked out because they've been replaced by the American dream and all the chaos and distraction and lack of understanding of what's going on here, it's done. It's an attack on your spiritual self. So this is why dreams are not in your reality. So then you have, like I said earlier, your revolutions. Your revolutions are prepositioned. They're all about the physical. It's less than the physical. It's about the illusions within the physical, within that physical. So the politics, like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is behind this whole aggressive, progressive, example purposes, just like generally. He's in he represents the system. But people think, well, he doesn't for some reason, whatever reason. Because they want the subconsciously or unconsciously, they want the system to heal itself. It was never designed to be what it is. Or it was never designed to be what it's telling you it's supposed to be. It was designed to be broken. So in that space, what are you really looking up to in anything that comes out of that system? So this is why you have Black Lives Matter. So your revolutions are all controlled oppositions. So you have even your idea of challenging the system is based upon the physical, based upon not even going into the higher mind or the spiritual interpretations of reality. It's just fix the system. Black Lives Matter. Fix the system. Don't address the cancer. Fix the system.
Feminism. Don't address the cancer, the origins of the separation of the man and the woman, the destruction of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the destruction of the family, the destruction of the culture. Don't address the origins of that cancer. Get your silly ass a pussy hat and get in front of a camera with a bunch of actors and other people who say they're trying to do something better and have the illusion of doing something amazing. Half-assed, broken realities. And like this eclipse of your relationship to the sun, the moon, and the stars, the universe, as we perceive it today, it's empty. There's nothing there. Even in the flat earth community, it's still empty. Because the only way you're going to understand what's going on with the sun, the moon, the stars, the wandering stars, the universe as a whole, this whole earth as a whole, the only way you're going to understand that is if you first understand yourself. If you don't understand yourself, you will only be able to interpret what the sun, the moon, the stars, and the earth is from the level of consciousness of you perceiving yourself. So when you work on yourself, you are working on the way you engage and perceive this reality. That's why I say it's so dangerous to just jump into this pride-filled flat earth community bullshit. No different than the conscious community and new age community bullshit, because it's not about what you label yourself. It's not about the memes. It's not about the labels. It's not about the shirts, the hats, the maps. It's about what you are doing, what your actions represent, and what your goals are with that information. Not the doggy treats, not the toys from the Happy Meal. See, the Happy Meal is the flat earth. And the shirts and the hats and the maps and the community and all that other bogusness and all that pride that comes from being different from the status quo of society, that's the Happy Meal toy. And people will go through the McDonald's drive-thru of the flat earth community for the rest of their lives, priding themselves that they're eating at a new McDonald's and playing with a new toy, and never realizing that they are no different than the old system. Back to the question, when will enough be enough? You won't know. You won't know if you're just sitting around playing with toys, priding yourself in something that you ain't got no business priding yourself in, because you got work to do. You're still in class. You're still in school. Get your ass off of that desk, standing on a desk like the Dead Poets Society, standing on a fucking desk talking about you did it. You discovered. What the hell did you do? What did you discover? Oh, well, we have a meaning and a purpose. Okay, what is that meaning and purpose, Mr. Flat Earth? In the Bible. Oh, so that's where your beliefs come from? Well, no, that's just one proof. And there are other proofs where we are here for a meaning and a purpose, and there's a creator. What does that mean? Were there other cultures who were already connected to that? What were they talking about? So there's no meaning there. It's just catchphrases. Oh, creator, meaning and purpose. We did it. It's labels. There's no fullness there. The flat earth mainstream community is an empty vessel for the earth. What are you going to fill it with? Flat earth mainstream top brass assholes want to tell you that they want to fill it with whatever the mainstream wants to fill it with. They don't take responsibility for filling it with their own connections to the earth. They want to continue going through the drive-through and fill it with whatever the slave masters tell them to fill it with. Why? Because largely, a lot of those people who are still in that drive-through are still subconsciously, unconsciously, and many of them consciously building up, profiting energetically, spiritually, on their level of consciousness from that destructive programming. It's not calibrated in any way that is from a space of inner space where they're creating their reality. It's still based upon the system. So this is when you have that separation. What happens is you have people looking up at an eclipse in the sky and saying, ooh, an eclipse, even in the flat earth community, making all kinds of videos about the eclipse this, the eclipse that. What does it mean? There's nothing there. I mean, the people who are still in the globe mentality, they still do the same thing. Oh, an eclipse. I'm going to drive here. I'm going to fly there to see the eclipse. What does it mean? Oh, it doesn't matter. I saw it. Physically, my physical eyes saw it. That's the only thing that matters. Okay. There's nothing there. And even people in the so-called flat earth community doing the same shit. Ooh, the blue moon. Ooh, a blood moon. Ooh, look at all this. A harvest moon. A pink moon. This place is wonderful. I love this place. Isn't it beautiful? You know what? That actually means something. Oh, what does it mean? Oh, I don't know. It's just, you drove all the way out here to look at this thing. You don't know what it means. You don't know what it is. You know how it affects you. What's your relationship to it? Does that matter? Nah. It's just, I just like being a flat earther who looks at the eclipse. It's better than being a globe earther looking at the eclipse. We're better than them. You are? Okay, so what is the eclipse? What does it mean to your soul, your mind, and your body? You have no fucking clue what it means. So sit your simple ass down, get off that damn desk in the classroom, in the school, and get back to work. Oh, shit. I think that's it. This is probably my longest video. That's it, though. I just wanted to go through the desensitization, the overstimulation of this world. I mean, it goes down to the very sciences. In the university system, you have the science of winemaking, where it's about acids. Like you're discovering how acids work with your tongue, with salts, with sugars, with bitterness. Like, how does alcohol and acid and sugar and savoriness and umami, like, how does this all work together to create some kind of stimulation in your body, some kind of sensory representation in your body? How does this work? That's where that's a good example of the university system. It maxes out at that. It's only about the tongue. It's only about your mouth feel. So you can understand there's a difference between like in reference to the food. You eat food. Excuse me. When you eat food, some people eat food with their mouth. And some people eat food with their soul. It's a difference there. It's like some people who breathe with their mouth and other people who breathe consciously with their soul. They've gotten to that point. I mean, those are extremes, but you can see how everybody falls into there in some kind of way, and the status quo, the mainstream reality, is to keep you in the mouth to keep you in the physical senses of barely anything, barely alive, barely full, so that you can just continue on begging this system to continue to fill you up. As soon as I saw people in the so-called flat earth top brass getting on that bandwagon of, well, as soon as it goes mainstream, everything's going to be okay. And don't take away from the flat earth conversation by talking about other stuff like human stories and culture and racism. Don't talk about all those other mind control programs. You need to focus on this one mind control program. That's it. And then you're a real flat earther. All the other ones are fake. They're probably disinfo agents. They're divisive. They're only here to cause division. You created another world. Created another idea of movement. And you shrunk everything down to nothing. You did the same thing this system is doing to everybody else. So that's pretty much what I have for this video. I know it's a long one. But I had to wait until I had all these pieces together to put it all together. And the only way I could do that is if I did it this way. So for the people who made it all the way through this video, I appreciate you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for hanging out. And for the new subscribers, welcome. There's something like 750 plus videos on this channel. Sometimes I won't make videos for a while. I'm slowing down now because I've already put a lot of information out there. A lot of people seeing these videos now, they think that I haven't been doing this for a while. You got to look again. So before you get into a comment section, if you are listening to this right now, before you get into a comment section about any of the videos, go through the catalog and check out what I've already done before you comment, because I probably have already spoken about what you've referenced, and that's what I've been noticing in the comment section. People asking me to speak on certain things, or people telling me not to speak on certain things. Like, you can't talk about racism because people get too butthurt. So that's not my problem. It ain't got nothing to do with me. You're talking about flat earth. You're talking about heliocentrism. You're talking about mind control. You're talking about power. Nothing else. Power. So what are these other systems that add up to power? There's a lot of them. And if you think it's as simple as flat earth, you are severely mistaken. And it will come back to bite you in the ass soon enough. It's going to be different for everybody. Different time frame for everybody. If you shrink it down to think it's only about this, it's only about that, it's only about what Alex Jones says, it's only about what Cenk Uygur says, it's only about what Stephen Colbert says, it's only about what John Oliver and Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders says. If that's your world, have fun. Have fun. Because you ain't got nothing else to do in that place. You better have fun in that ignorance, because it's killing you. And it's destroying the foundation for the civilization, the cultures, the people, your grandchildren in the future. And we only have right now. This is the only time to do something about it. You might not wake up tomorrow. Did you do anything for your grandchildren? What did you do for the next 7 generations? Or did you spend that time just priding yourself in some bullshit? There's a difference. So, thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.